Welcome to AP Daily. I'm Jill Westerland, and we're going to talk about 2.8, topic 2.8. In this series of videos, we're going to think about wrapper classes and how those help us in the CSA course. Wrapper classes are going to give us some capability to take our primitive data values and kind of grow them up to be able to use them in other ways. This topic and the lessons that you'll learn about wrapper classes become particularly important in Unit 7. We're going to be learning about how to create and call integer and double objects, and there are two constructors and two methods provided in the Java Quick Reference related to wrapper classes. And you also need to know that wrapper classes are provided for our use through the java.lang package. Okay, so a little bit about wrapper classes. First of all, I want you to notice that the word integer is capitalized and it is spelled out. That is not by accident. Remember that in Unit 1 you learned about the primitive data type int. So think about integer is the grown-up version of the same item, and an int would be its younger version. Integer is a wrapper class. Notice that because it's capitalized, remember strings is always capitalized. You may have wondered back in Unit 1, why are we capitalizing string but int, double, and boolean are always lowercase when I declare those? That's because string is a class as well. So, you may have heard that in Unit 1, but the more time you spend in Java, the more things become real to you. So integer is a wrapper class, and it is a class, compared to int, its baby brother, I guess you'd say, or baby sister, who is a primitive. The Java Quick Reference gives us one constructor and three methods to use with the integer class. And here they are, and if you have your printed copy of the Java Quick Reference, I'd like for you to pull it out and notice what these are. Two of these have to do with particular values related to integers, and then one is the constructor and one is a return. All right, so let's practice. I'm going to switch to code to show you how this behaves. I think it'll mean a little bit more to you if you see it in action. Hopefully you're looking at my JGrass screen now. What I've done here is on line number 8, I have declared an integer object named num1. And since it is an integer with a capital I, when I create that, it looks exactly like what you did when you created string objects. Now we're just creating an object of the integer type, and it is a new one. Remember, that means instantiate or create, and this object holds the actual parameter, the value 157, because just like an int, an integer is going to be a whole number. And then in line number 9, I want to print it out. And then I've got 3 lines that are commented out right now. So let's compile this code, and you'll see that it prints me out a couple of versions. Here I have it in line 14 using the 4th item that's provided on the Java Quick Reference, and then printing that out. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, what's happening here on lines 14 and 15 in video 3. So now I want to show you what happens when we call to print integer max and integer min. Integer max and integer min are, I'm going to move this up just a little bit so that you can see what those give you down here. These are numbers 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. Every integer value has 32 bits of space allotted to it. So the highest number that an int can hold is this number. You'd have to put in the commas, but it's 2 to the 32 minus 1. I've got to look at my note, but yes. So that's the highest value that it can hold. If it's a minimum, it would be a negative number. And you'll notice that the negative number is actually 1 digit off from the maximum value. And if you add 1 to the maximum value, you're going to get some odd things happening. What would we expect to happen? We'd expect to get the next number, but that's not what's going to happen because of overflow. It actually flips and wraps around and gives you the minimum value. And you can play with this in your own editor to kind of see what happens if you add or subtract from these values, because Java doesn't exactly know what to do with them because it throws an underflow or an overflow as the math kind of gets quirky there. So, but this represents the highest value that an integer can hold or an int can hold, or the lowest value that an integer can hold. And as you get to the string class later, you'll learn that strings have the same amount of, they're not infinite. So that's how the code looks and how that works. Let's jump back to finishing up this one. And here's my code so that you can see. So what you need to take away from this lesson, the integer class, is that it is a wrapper class. It gives us the ability to kind of grow an int primitive up to be able to use it in some other ways. And like I told you, this is going to become particularly important in Unit 7 when you begin to use array list. And we have four things provided for us. 1 constructor and 3 methods are provided on the Java Quick Reference, and you're responsible for knowing those. And you will see these concepts pop up in both multiple choice and free response. Thank you for watching.